Canada's at a major fork in the road, facing one of the biggest economic choices in a generation. You've got this gleaming, high-tech train on one side, promising a new future. And on the other, you have the massive, powerful engine of its natural resources. In this explainer, we're going to break down what this choice really means. The dream is pretty compelling, you have to admit. A sleek, modern train called Alto, just zipping between Canada's biggest cities. It's a vision that's sold on more than just speed. It's about a greener, less congested future, and yeah, a bit of national pride. It's not just a train, it's an idea for a faster, more connected, more modern Canada.
But, and this is a huge but, that vision comes with a price tag that is just staggering. We are talking $60 to $90 billion. To put that into perspective, this would be one of the single most expensive projects Canada has ever built. Period.
And when you're talking about a number that big, you have to ask the hard question. Is this really the best use of that money? I mean, what are you giving up to get it? What's the opportunity cost for the whole country? Let's dive into that. Okay, first, let's get a really clear picture of what this Alto project is all about. So here's the plan. It's ambitious. A 1,000-kilometer line running at super high speeds right through Canada's economic heartland. It's going to be built using what's called a public-private partnership, or a P3, which means government and private companies are both chipping in. And it'll all be managed by a brand new government corporation. All right, now let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this choice. Canada's natural resource sector. You know, the economic engine that's often brought up as the alternative for this kind of massive investment. And to understand just how big this engine is, get a load of this number. In 2024 alone, this sector poured nearly $500 billion into Canada's GDP. And that's not a projection for someday in the future. That's what's happening right now. So when we say natural resources, we're talking about the absolute bedrock of the Canadian economy. Energy, mining, forestry, the whole shebang. It's not a single, shiny new project. It is a massive, countrywide engine that's already running at full steam. So the real question is, how do these two completely different options actually stack up? Okay, let's put them head to head. Let's look at the actual numbers. First, let's talk economic footprint. The government projects that Alto could add about $35 billion a year to the GDP. But that's a future benefit once it's up and running, which is decades away. Now, compare that to the $459 billion the resource sector is adding right now, this year. It's a huge difference. And then you have to look at the kinds of jobs we're talking about. Alto is expected to create jobs, for sure, but most of them are temporary. They're for the construction phase. In stark contrast, the natural resource sector already sustains 1.8 million permanent jobs year in and year out. Now, this is where it really hits home for taxpayers. The Alto rail line is a massive upfront cost. Plus, there's a real risk it will need government money, subsidies, just to keep running. Meanwhile, the resource sector is a cash cow for the government. It pours billions into government coffers every single year. It's a cost versus a revenue stream. Simple as that. But you know, this debate isn't just about the national balance sheet. It's also about geography. And really, a question of fairness. Who actually benefits from all this? So the high-speed rail line, by its very design, is hyper-focused. It serves one specific 1,000-kilometer corridor connecting the big cities in central Canada. But then you look at the natural resource economy. It's the complete opposite. It's not in one spot. It's the lifeblood for 628 different communities spread out across every single province and territory. A lot of them are rural and Indigenous communities, far, far away from that Toronto-Quebec City corridor. And hey, public opinion polls pretty much show you this exact same map. It's really no surprise that support for the project is strongest right where the train is supposed to go. But that support drops off a cliff in Western and Atlantic Canada, where a lot of people are looking at this and asking, okay, but what's in it for us? All right, with any project this big, you have to talk about risk. So it's super important to compare the long-term outlooks and, what could go wrong with each path. So let's talk about the biggest risk of all, the cost. Canada has a bit of a history with these mega projects, and, well, it's not always a pretty one. Time after time, we see initial budgets that are really just a suggestion. The final bill for taxpayers often ends up being way, way higher. So if we spend all this money, when do we actually see a return on that investment? Well, you might want to get comfortable. One academic study projects it would take almost 5 decades, 48 years, before the train could even break even. And that's if everything goes absolutely perfectly.
On the other hand, the resource sector, it's a totally different risk profile. It generated $383 billion in export revenue in 2024 alone. See, that's not some far-off projection. It's an immediate, real, and ongoing return that makes Canada stronger on the world stage right now. And the way the project's funded, this public-private thing, it also comes with its own set of risks. For the private investors to make a profit, ticket prices might have to be pretty high. And if not enough people actually ride the train, well, taxpayers could get stuck footing the bill for subsidies, maybe over $1 billion a year. Plus, there's a real fear it could steal passengers from via rail, which could threaten train service for the rest of the country.
So when you put it all together, what is the fundamental choice that the country is facing right now?
It really boils down to two completely different visions for Canada's future. Vision 1 is a massive investment in a specific high-tech project to modernize one part of the country. Vision 2 is investing in a broad, decentralized economic engine that already generates huge, sustained revenue for the entire nation.
Look, at the end of the day, this isn't really about a train. It's a choice that is going to define Canada's economic path for a generation. Does the country bet big on a single transformative project for one region, or does it double down on the foundational engine that powers the entire nation? That is the real billion-dollar question.